Hey all, welcome to the Clock Tower. I'm Colton here with Brandon. Also with us are special guests Brayden and Mark, who were my teammates in Chicago this last weekend. We took fourth at Springfest Rosemont, and we will talk about that. They'll talk about their decks and their rounds. We'll get into that more in a moment. First, the Chicago top eight broadly. We're going to go over that real quick. Avatar, SDS, Chainsaw Man. Second place was 8 Choice, Chainsaw Man, 8 Standby Quince, and Ari Ferreira, 2 Soul Bar. Third place was the Pittsburgh Crew. Carmen was on Tofazula. Kit was playing the Chainsaw Man list, and Johnny on Oski Polka 8 Standby. Fourth place was us. Mark was playing Azure Lane, the Pants into the Shinano top end. I was on Caligura, and Brayden was on an 8 Mardal list with the Queen top end. Nothing super crazy in the rest of top 8. We saw Licorice Recall. There was an 8 Pants AOT that I think is a little bit unique. We haven't seen AOT do super well, but overall, pretty par for the course top 8. There is an Azure Lane list that's playing Standby Salvage and doesn't have the cats, as well as another Azure Lane with the Shinano top end. So Azure Lane making 3 of the top 8 teams. Only one of those lists not featuring cats. I think by and large, not too unusual in Chicago, except for that fourth place team. That fourth place team's kind of weird, Brandon.
Yeah, absolutely. Like of the rest of the top eight, you kind of expect most of those decks to be there. Second place team also stands out a little bit, not having true Chainsaw Man like the list we typically see, but seeing the eight choice list instead. Outside of that, we kind of expect a lot of these decks to kind of pop in there. But yeah, no, the fourth place team has a lot of unique opportunities here.
Yeah, going back to that second place team real quick, I do like this 8 choice Chainsaw Man list. Pay 2, pitch 2, burn 2, and top deck your opponent's character. It does require a reverse, so it's swinging in at 12, which is defendable. Obviously, you're trying to get additional power. There are additional power conditions in the deck. But I really like the power level 1. I think the power level 1 is really nice. But interesting to see somebody play something that isn't the standard Chainsaw Man in top 8 and do well with it. But that is kind of the overview of top 8. As I mentioned, we were the fourth place team, and we're going to start by handing it off to Mark, who was playing the Bremerton Shinano Azure Lane list. Mark, would you mind telling us a little bit about the deck that you played and going round by round with how your day went?
Yeah, like you mentioned, I was running the Bremerton Shinano combo. Basically, the main gist of the deck is really strong at the 0 level, so we got big soul damage. Then Bremerton is the exclusive level 1. There is no other level 1s in the deck. And after that, we're just shooting straight to level 3s. The deck is running 13 level 3s with 4 Shinanos for the top end climax combo, but then additionally, we got Kronstadt and Nagato for early play heal, a couple of other off finishers depending on the board state. Deck basically runs on I'm just going to absolutely gas you as fast as humanly possible at the low end. Hopefully, by the time you push me to the top end, you're within killable range, which actually ended up being pretty conclusive for most of the matches that I had for the day. So I was really scared round one. My opponent opens up the Saikano, which is a little testy in that matchup because they compress their deck like none other. And he had one or two misplays. He just got into trouble towards the top end. He was out, I think, 4 climaxes going into my finishing turn. And fortunately, he just didn't see any of them when he needed to. Round 2, I ran into Hololive. This Hololive player was playing like the standard Caligura combo. It was just a rushed battle to see who could kill the other person faster, and he just died. Round 3 was another another hollow deck. Unfortunately, I felt a little bad for my opponent because he did not climax combo once. So his deck didn't really do a whole lot. He just kind of got pushed into death. If I remember correctly, that was the game that I swung in a open lane with Yama, and she was swinging for 6 on a deck refresh. and he was at level 3, so it was a clean, perfect kill. I remember Colton finished with his game, and he looked over, and he's just like, "That's disgusting." Round 4 was the first loss that I had for the day, running up against the Pittsburgh Crew. I got paired against Carmen's Avatar deck. I was trying my best. My last turn, I was still at 2-2. I had partial board. I had a big swing with Nagato. It was going to be for game. If it stuck, unfortunately, he canceled on 3. He just did Avatar stuff, swung 8 times. I just kind of died. And then round 5 was against a 8-bar, just standard green Azure Bliss. He was doing Taiho stuff like crazy. I got to level 3. I just had a big turn. Round 6 was Overlord, which unfortunately was also another brick. My opponent did not climax combo once. In fact, I don't think he even fielded full board the entire game. He just kind of died. Then round 7, the last round for Swiss, was against your typical chainsaw man with a good old Aki. Pushed my opponent up to level 3. Felt pretty comfortable where I was at. I think going in his big final turn, the guy was at 2-4. He chose to double Aki because he did pull a third Aki, but he ended up playing 3-2 Himeno, pushing her into the front row. Got pushed up pretty high. I think by the time he got done with his turn, I was at 3-5, but double Shinano just hit wonderfully on both of those. I think it was a burn 2 on the first one and a burn 3 on the second one. And then when we cut to top 8, unfortunately, the first match wasn't really much to talk about. That was against Itsuki, and that man literally bricked harder than probably anybody else. And I healed 4 times. I think by the time the game ended, I literally just went to level 2. I think that game he also ate 11 damage from a big open swing with double Fuso and Yamashiro on board. He definitely got capped pretty hard, but he was just not seeing anything. The next round was against the 8-choice chainsaw. That man just I don't know what he was doing that round, but Jesus Christ, that man canceled literally every time the number of times he just triple canceled a turn. And then towards the end, I think I was just getting frustrated with how the game was going. He definitely got that one. And then for the final round, the fight for third place was up against the Pittsburgh Crew again, and lo and behold, Carmen's Avatar beat me a second time during the day. Fortunately, we died. So overall for the day, we went 7-3, 6-1 in the Swiss round. So overall, I can't say I can really complain.
Thanks, Mark, for repping my deck. That's the deck that I brought to New York for our team league. But this time, I brought something a little spicier. Going into this tournament, I wasn't looking to play as hard. Like, I wanted to play something I was more comfortable with. I already tried hard in New York, and I just wanted to have a good time. So I decided to bring 8-bar Data Live, which is, first off, Data Live has not been doing super hot this season, but I don't think anyone has ever topped anything with the bar list. So just running through the deck and what it does quickly, it mostly focuses around the level 1 Yoshino combo, which is when you play the bar with a full board, you get to choose to either salvage a character or level down one of your opponent's characters. Super simple. It's like swings in at 7k. Doesn't do too much else, but the main reason why you would want to run this combo is the bar support, the Natsumi level 0 that goes with it, which is a free ditch deck bond to the level 1 combo at 0. Running through the rest of the deck, the only other thing with it is that we run Queen Finisher and we run a 2-2 split of this sort of 2-card level 2 package, which is how we contest board, considering that we don't really contest board otherwise. And then Queen Finisher has the heal on play and then combo with bar. You can choose between pay 2, burn 2 on attack, or on attack, shuffle back 2 from your opponent's waiting room and then gain 2 soul. And then the rest of the list is just utility zeros, disruption effects, dock swap, and 4 copies of this 1055 that stocks a card on reverse with a climax in play. That's a level 0 on the board. The list performs really smoothly. The big thing with it is that you yourself like threaten nothing, so your opponent doesn't like have to respect your board state. However, the ability to swing for 5 or side for 2 against level 3s with shuffleback 2 should not be understated. The Queen Finisher is definitely the MVP card of this deck. Going through my rounds, round 1, I fought 8 choice Beaufry with the whole Loving Sacrifice package with the Maple Tree level 1 combo. Interesting deck. I've fought a lot of Loving Sacrifice, and unfortunately, my level 1 combo is just like a perfect out to neg soul things just because I have level down on climax placement. So I took the game pretty handedly. The player, I just was ahead in the damage race throughout most of the game, as well as having a bunch of clean stock and him not having the resources to go for stock swap later. Round 2 was my first loss. I lost versus 8 Bar Spy running the level 1 Yor, the 2/1 Anya into the multiple bar top end, the 3-piece top end combo with the 3/5 event. He never actually did the full finisher combo. This one I was just behind in damage. Just 8 bar mirrors tend to have like damage races and who can compress and eat less damage in the mid game. I unfortunately had the bad end of that stick, so I lost this one. Round 3, I fought Ollie, like we know him from other tournaments. He was on Chainsaw, and unfortunately, he just did not have the damage push to like really catch up for the game. I also hit him really hard with the Queen Finisher. This is probably the first instance where I had amazing games with Queen, where my opponent left me with like a 3-card deck with 1 climax and 3 level 3s on the board, where I can just side for 2, swing for 5, and it like you're eating 7 damage with Queen. Queen is unfortunately very strong in that scenario. So I cheesed out the game. I don't think I actually killed him with Queen, but I don't think he killed me on the crackback either. I was able to disrupt a lot of his board. He committed very hard for triple Kishibe, and I was able to level down 2 and then kill the 3rd with my level 1 combo. And then the following turn, after he bombed one of my units, I was able to drag up the Hemino Brainstorm and kill that on my turn as well, making it so he didn't have a way to like search the Akis at 3. So just a lot of disruption in the matchup. Round 4 was our loss. Unfortunately, I got paired against 8 Standby Hololive, which I didn't realize it when I was sleeving up and setting up my 8 bar Data Live deck, but 8 Standby Hololive has absolute hate on my deck at every instance of the game. And I have like no answers for a lot of what the standby deck wants to do. At level 0, they play bombs when I play field plussing level 1s or level 0s. I have no way of really scaling over the 1/1s, especially once the 2/1 support comes down. And then I have actually 0 answers for Luna once it hits the board. So 8 Standby Hololive is an incredibly hard matchup for my deck. I have to like try and win the damage race early. If I can't, unfortunately, I just fizzle out and run out of resources. Round 5, we fought Audrey's team. Audrey's been around for a long time, but my matchup was against Alice Silica. Basically, the old list, but tack on the limit 2 on Alice and go from there. So, unfortunately, because my combo again has field disruption, the moment Alice hits the board, as long as I have enough resources to not go for the salvages, I can actually just level down the Alices and answer them, so he only gets 1 turn of them, regardless. But I think I put him to level 2, and he hard played at least one of the 2 of them on that turn. So I was just ahead in the damage race, which is a lot of what happens with this deck. Is I can win the damage race pretty handedly because I'm on bar. Round 6, fought Gura, just Kali Gura. Uh, I have a pretty decent matchup into. Oh, actually, no. This was Kali Gura. I fought 2 Guras during the tournament. This one was the standard choice pants list. Uh, I can play a lot of. I play a full 4 copies of JC, so I can deny the reverse for the Ames. So I could sort of gatekeep their stock, as well as my finisher doesn't have a lot of precise damage, but it has reach, and that's basically all my finisher does. So I can actually level lock Hololive quite effectively, and I can play for like these weird 2-turn finisher turns where I drop level 3s on the board, swing for 5 3 times, and then say, okay, you're still at level 2, and I get a whole second turn of finisher off. Round 7, I went against the Van Cole 40. I went against Robbie. He was on Overlord, and by all means, I should have lost this game. I ate in a stray 4 coming from the Ein swing and went to 3-6 with 3 events ready to go. For Overlord, he procced 1, canceled. I procced 2, canceled. Saw that if he procced the third, he would not have tap counter up. So he did not proc the third event, which probably would have killed me because I was at 3-6. So he held up tap counter. However, he also had just triggered 1 on that turn and had 7 engrave with 3 clean in decks. So I hit him with triple queen, side 2, and he had the Yuri in the final lane, so I could side for 3 with shuffle back 2 on each of those. So I had exactly 7 clean damage guaranteed with no counter. So I took that game, putting me at 5-2, which was pretty good, pretty standard tournament for me. I like to go 5-2. Top 8, round 1, I fought Standby Gura, which I have a wonderful matchup into because I have level down ready to go at all moments of the game, as well as JC to deny reverse. Unfortunately, the player just didn't have enough to go off of. The final turn he had a whole turn at 3 where he had to stand by a Gura to the back row just to get his Gura set up, and I just dropped finisher on the board and won the spot instead of going for level downs and stalling. So took that game. I was up quite a bit on that one. I think I actually put myself up into 3 from 2-5 just to go for finisher instead of delaying him a turn. Second round of top 8, I went against the 2-soul bar Arifureta, and like many of the other decks that need reverses, or in this case, he needs to crash his drop searcher, I was able to deny the drop search going to memory for the whole game. So he never actually got his level 1 combo to proc because he did not have memory condition. However, I ate more damage in the mid game than he did, and specifically at the top, I ate a stray 5 after he ripped the 2-soul trigger after dropping the 2-soul at 3. So I ate the stray 5 over refresh for exact lethal, and that unfortunately took the game. Can't do too much about that. Sometimes you just eat 5. And then top 8, again, we have to fight Carmen's team. Again, I have to fight 8 Standby Hololive. Unfortunately, this is a very hard matchup again. He tap countered me at least once. I believe going into my finisher turn, he might have had enough hand to do it a second time. However, I just died to Luna Burn on his turn, which is what Luna does, which is why 8 Standby is a great deck. Congrats to him, though, for going 10-0 over the course of the tournament. He's a great pilot. My final record after all of that is 5-2 in pools and 1-2 for a 6-4 record, but I got to do it with 8 bar Data Live.
I was on Kali Gura, which is a list I've been playing a lot of for a while. I played it last year and did pretty well with it in singles format. I played it in New York and didn't do well. I went 2-4. And in between New York and Chicago, I was seriously considering moving off of it. But I came to the conclusion that the problem wasn't the deck, the problem was me. I was trying to play the deck in a way that was not optimal. My natural way of playing is more reactive than proactive. I tend to play towards answers and outs as opposed to trying to dictate terms, which is what the Gura list, especially with the Cali, really wants to do, is just dictate the game's pace and board um, from start to finish. So I changed my approach. I made a couple of little changes, mostly for consistency, because again, I was trying to play to outs and answers. So I took out a couple of tech pieces and put in some more consistency stuff. So the list ends up being at 0, we're playing 4 copies of the Kanata Riki to make sure that we get into our level 1 and that we aren't losing cards from hand to do it. The underrated all-star from this list is the coin flip, because at 4 copies, you see it a lot. It's a level 2 or higher, which allows you to plus more often than most coin flips because we run a high number of level 2 and higher cards. It's also mill, which means that when it's on the board, when we go to refresh, we can put the climax in deck with 1 card left, and then at the beginning of our opponent's draw phase, we mill the clean damage into our next deck so that our opponent doesn't get a free damage, but we still get to put our climax away. It's also on play 2k, which is really easy to fix because we have so much top check. As long as we get that 2k on play with the reveal, we can pump power to Callies, we can pump power to Ames, we can pump power to our level 0 board, to itself. That power pump is actually really important, and it helps put us over the top. So it's a plussing piece that also grants a bunch of power, that also denies the clean damage after climax turn. It's just an all-star. It does so many things for us that just work super, super well with the rest of the list. We also run, obviously, 4 copies of the Ina CX swap because that card is ridiculous. Level 1 is literally just try to triple Cali. That's, again, why we run 4 copies of the Riki, 2 copies of the Drop Search. We are trying to get into Cali because it's our primary mid-game plus. We're just going to get it out there. We have a bunch of extra power stuff as well, with the Brainstormer that has the Soul Trigger, with the Coin Flip, and also the Iris Brainstormer. I like it as a 2 of, because it gives us the opportunity to assign power to multiple lanes. We can get all of our lanes over 7k when we have the Iris Brainstormer specifically and the level 1 Iroha Brainstormer in the back row. So it allows us to break boards that are relatively big. All of this extra power stuff allows us to even contest, like, the Fiona board in Spy Family. Like, we can actually hit 7-5, 8k, 8-5 in multiple lanes when we get all of our stuff down. Level 2, we're just trying to get Ames and healers. The goal of the game is you combo with Cali on turn 3. Turn 4 is your setup turn where you heal down with the healer and maybe get an Ame out there to try to get some extra resources. We end the turn at like 2-3, but by that point, we've pushed our opponent into 3. We have 32 soul triggers. We're trying to slam a climax basically every turn after turn 1. Push damage the whole way through. Hopefully, by the time our opponent untaps after our 4th turn, they're at 3-0. They've probably been rushed, so they're a little bit short of resources to try to get a full board of combo, and we're sitting at 2-2, 2-3, probably not going to die. Most things don't kill from that range, and even the ones that can don't do it consistently, so we don't have to play scared of that. We can sit back at 2-3 and then get pushed into 3 by their combo turn, and then close with 2 Guras. Trying to get 3 Guras is really hard, especially if we're trying to play into having only a 5-turn game. So we're okay with eating damage off of like the Ame Resonates and off of the Rikis. Like, we don't mind that as much because we can heal it off with the healer. And then all we need is 2 Guras and Ame, the CX, and 5 stock, and we just go. We double Gura, and that almost always closes from 3-0. Couple of tech pieces for matchups, but tried to limit the number of tech pieces because I wanted to focus on making the main engine work, and that's basically how almost all of my rounds ended up going. Round 1 was against 8-bar Dragon Maid. Dude canceled. Just unreal. Like, I've played a lot of Dragon Maid, and I wish I canceled like that with Dragon Maid. I was at 3-0 and he was at 1-6, but I knew he had a bunch of stock. I had all of my stuff together for my Gura. So I think he actually pushed me to 3-2. I played 2 Guras and healed down because I knew he didn't have any way to get the Guras off the board. I just left them in the back row, pushed forward my back row, swung a couple of times, got him into the middle of 2 because I know his healers aren't very good. And then I was just like, okay, I'm going to sit on this. I have the stock. He swung into me. He ends up with like 11 stock, and he's still at like 2-3. I stock swap him, double Gura, and that's it. Because stock swap, when you have that much clean stock, is pretty lethal. So that took care of round 1. Round 2, I played into Tokyo Revenger's Choice Pants. Dude just bricked. Honestly, he ate a bunch of damage and never drew his pieces. I was, I think, still early level 2 when I pushed him into like 3-4. So he just didn't really have much of a game because he just never drew anything and ate all of the damage off of all of the soul triggers. Round 3 was against Slime Salvage Pants. This is a really good matchup for Caligura because you can answer Murin really easily, just like through your natural progression of play. Because when you have your healers and your Ames down, you slam a CX, they're all at 12, even without the Resonate ability or any of the other power pump stuff. You could just answer Murin. You can force out the counters, especially if you force out the early play counter. You just get them to undo an entire turn of Murin with all that plussing. So I just healed down. I dealt with the Murin board. I kept pushing damage. I pushed him into 3. Benny Morrow doesn't close when you're also not at level 3 with any kind of consistency. So I just lived and then closed with Gura. Round 4 was against Carmen's team, played into Kit on Chainsaw Man's Stock Soul Bar. He canceled well in the mid game and pushed me into 3. So I was kind of stuck. I was at 3-6 with a pair of Guras on the board, but I resonated when I shouldn't have to push myself to 3-6. After I had healed down to 3-5, I had played a Gura the turn before because he pushed me to level 3 the turn before. So I played a Gura down to heal and then like tried to not let him get to Aki. If I remember correctly, he still like pushed himself into 3 and was able to double Aki. But I was out so many climaxes that the Aki literally did nothing. He'd used 3 bottom deck checks off of his events. All of them were clean, and then still whiffed the Icy Tail because I was like 3 out of 15 or something, and all of my climaxes were in the top half of the deck. I turned around. I had 2 Guras on the board, but like I said, I had resonated myself to 3-6 when I shouldn't have. I thought I was going to need the stock, and I didn't. So I ended up having to stick perfect lethal with the burn 2, burn 1, burn 1 before triggering the last card in my deck. He ate the 2-1, refreshed, ate the last one for lethal before I triggered my last card. So I got lucky in that game, for sure. It was probably the one game that I won that I would say I shouldn't have won. Round 5, I played against Audrey's 8 Salvage Hololive list. She pushed me into 3 with Maureen, but then didn't use the combo on the second lane of Maureen to hold up tap counter. So I didn't play my Guras down. I just put my healer down and the Kali, and basically tried to make sure that she wasn't going to have Maureen a second turn, because I knew she was going to just burn her entire hand for tap counter because she had to. So I made sure that I was over both of the Maureens. I made her play the tap counter against the stock healer instead of the Maureen by trying to present lethal with that healer to make sure that I got both of the Maureens specifically off the board. I was at 3-0, but she had no cards in hand, and the only thing she had on the board was, I think, a healer that was facing against the Ame. So she just didn't have the gas to get to 7 damage, and I was able to turn around and close with Gura. Round 6, I played into Chainsaw Man again. Chainsaw Man's just a good matchup for Caligura because it just pushes more damage over the course of the game and has more consistent closing at the top, I would argue, because Aki can whiff a lot harder than Gura can. I pushed him into 3. I was at 2. He swung with Aki's, couldn't close. I turned around and closed him 3-0. Because again, just having the extra soul triggers means that you push your opponent into 3, and then all you have to do is live from 2-2, 2-3, which you're going to do in the vast majority of games. Round 7, played into 8 standby Hololive. Probably the worst matchup I faced all day. Um, One stock short of being able to double Gura and bounce one of the Lunas. So I had to bounce a Luna and go with single Gura, and I came up 2 damage short. He turned around and closed. Because you have to deal with the Luna, or else the Luna is just gonna like poke you for even more damage. And also it has the scry. So I tried to bounce the I had to bounce the one instead of getting a second Gura down on the board. But that was my first loss of the day. I ended 6-1 in rounds. Went into top 8. Played against Azure Lane Standby Salvage, which was an interesting list because it didn't have the cats in it, which is like the thing you expect to see with Azure Lane. It was just standby. And he just built up a board of 9/5s, which is just a little bit too big for the Callies with all the power pump to handle. I wasn't planning on running into a lot of just like raw big stuff 8 standby, and this ended up being 6 standby, but it was big enough that he was able to plus on board. I had a double Gura turn to close where he canceled 4 3 times. One with my healer that I had still on the board from the previous turn, and then the 2 Guras, both of them triggered. He canceled 4 3 times. If one of those had stuck, I would have gotten it. But he canceled all 3 and then was able to turn around and close. Fortunately, my teammates got the dubs on either side of me to push us into the semifinals. In the semifinals, I played into 8 standby Quints. Another good matchup for Gura, just because that deck doesn't push enough damage. You're able to just throw damage at the board, push them into 3. They don't really have a strong enough response. It's also easy to get over their big stuff at level 2 because, again, the Ames and the healer are just big. Third place game, played the Chainsaw Man kit once more. I won for the second time. This time I didn't sack him, pushed them into 3-0, make them try to close you, and then when they push you into 3, you turn around with double Gura and just finish the game. That's the game plan for Caligura. It works well, and I would argue that Caligura is the most consistent deck in the format, and I would say that it is the best non-avatar deck in the format because of how consistently it just pushes damage and how the game plan just works against most things. But yeah, ended up 8-2 overall. One of my best days. The deck's really good. The deck's just really good. But yeah, that's how our tournament run in Chicago went. There was another tournament that's happened since. It was the Germany event in Munich, and we have some information about that. We'll fill out the graphic. I'm sure it'll be ready by the time this video actually goes live. So we'll have hopefully all of top 8 on the screen. For right now, we know top 2 for sure. It was once again the Europeans just on their nonsense. Avis, that Eno Guilty Gear list, the team goes 7-2, the Eno list goes 7-2, alongside Hololive and Hendrickson, beating Overlord, Hololive, and Avatar in the final. Among all of top 8 in total, 5 Hendricksons, 3 Hololives, 2 Spy Families, 2 Guilty Gears, 2 Psychonos, 2 Overlords, 2 Avatars, 2 Chainsaw Man, and then 1 each of Avatar, Slime, MTI, and Quince. Only 2 Chainsaw Man in top 8. Only 13 of the 34 teams had Chainsaw Man. And I think that the lack of representation in the field is a big contributor to its lack of representation in top 8.
Potentially just an outlier based off of some of the things we've seen so far this season. But it is definitely worth noting that there were only 2 of them in top 8 this time around.
So we'll see what happens in the last few events of the season. Obviously, Bushiroad watching all this very closely as they decide what to hit and not to hit going into singles. But only 3 events left on the schedule for BSF. Singapore on June 15th, Sydney, Australia on June 16th, and in France on July 6th. And then that will be it for Springfest, and it'll be time to await the fall schedule and what will likely be some kind of restriction list update. But the details of that, of course, are known only to Bushiroad. And I think that's it. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Mark and Brayden, for being here to talk about your runs in Chicago. Thanks for being excellent teammates. It was a lot of fun playing in Chicago. Really proud of how well we did. I think that we all played well. It feels good to have a really strong event. There'll be some kind of video next week from Brandon, and then in 2 weeks we'll be back with another Clock Talk talking about Singapore and Australia. Until next time, thank you so much for joining us. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe, and have a good one.
We'll see you then.